Okay, welcome everybody, and welcome to the Slim Nation. And we're so glad to be here with you today. And we've been talking about this moment, the launching of the Slim Nation YouTube Live and Facebook Live station. And when I was telling you about leading up to this moment, one of the people I was telling you I wanted to have on here was my first college roommate, and he is here. And I talked to him and got him here, and we're glad to have him here. His name is John Boo Pittman, and we first met on the campus of Virginia Union University. And you see, the Slim Nation is a part of what this show is named after. He was the one that gave me the name of Slim. When I got there, I think when we met each other, I said, okay, my name is James Overton. He probably said, James Overton, how about if I call you Slim? James Overton probably wasn't a name that was cool for the 70s. He was already called Boo. So anyway, I credit him for giving me, or starting my name as, or everybody identifying me as Slim Overton.
That's amazing. 50 years, it's stuck.
Yeah, 50 years, it's stuck. And what was amazing about it, Boo?
That's amazing. 50 years, it's stuck.
Yeah. What was amazing about it? What's amazing about it? Let me turn this. I got to echo there. What's amazing about it? They used to call my father Slim, and but they never called me Slim, Little Slim or anything like that. But then I got up there, you call me Boo. Call me Boo. You call me Slim, and it's been stuck. Now so I almost got my name was James for a minute there. But anyway, here we are on Slim Nation, and I got one of my best buddies, 50 years. And you know what? 50 years ago, we met, and we haven't really seen each other over the years. I think we hooked back up on Facebook. But you were always on my mind, man, because that was an experience and a half. But we'll get into that. Let me start with you. Well, first thing, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm here in California. The weather's good, and at first I just want to thank God, for allowing us to be on this broadcast today. 50 years after we met at Virginia Union, which is a historical place in itself, and 50 years later, we're sitting here getting ready to have a conversation, and I just want to give God the praise and the glory for, bringing us together like that.
Yeah, it's probably was his will. He brought us together in the first place. You got a guy coming from Brooklyn, New York, and a guy coming from Portland, Virginia, and putting them together. And we had that opportunity to come together before the year started. In 1972, they had a pre-program for freshmen coming in, and both of us came in and became roommates. And my first meeting with you, and I told the story a million times, we introduced each other, and he said, wait a minute, kick the fly off the wall. The fly was above my head. Kick the fly off the wall, and I said to myself, this is going to be my friend from now on, because
you're funny. I tell you that, you got jokes.
Yeah, well, if you kick above my head, and I'm 6'5", it was a no-brainer. You were going to be my friend. But anyway, Boo, let's talk about what did you find Union, or did Union find you? What brought you from Brooklyn, New York, down to Richmond, Virginia, to go to college, to the little University of Virginia Union University? What brought you here?
Well, a friend of mine, Mara Cooper, went to high school with me. She knew I was a basketball player, and she set me up with Tricky Tom. And Tricky Tom brought me down there, and took care of me when I got there. Took me to the business office, made sure I got registered, got in school. I took the SATs, and I got accepted in school. And I came to Union actually to play basketball, because that's how I met you. Because we played basketball on the freshman team together. And yeah, and that was the foundation of why I was there.
So, and we talked, and so you were sort of encouraged by your family. You had two sisters and your mother, and so what kind of and high school. So it was a little break between high school and when you decided to come to Virginia Union. So what was going on in your life in between that time and
I was in high
you know
school. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, so it was city life, and I was growing. That's what was going on. I was growing.
mm,
I was becoming aware that it was time to bridge the gap between boyhood and young manhood.
boys to men.
Something like that.
So coming to so coming to the union with a whole different experience, a whole different environment. So did it meet your expectations, or did you have the expectations of before you got there, or what to expect? Once you
You
arrived
know,
on
you know,
campus.
when you say expectations, I understand what you mean, but I think as a young brother leaving the streets of New York, I didn't know what to expect. The only thing I expected was to go in the gym and play basketball, and
Mhm.
that's where the vast majority of my focus and expectation was. In playing and being wanting to be a basketball player. As far as the culture and the difference in the culture of coming from Brooklyn to Virginia, I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect. I had never been to Virginia before, and I didn't know, that we were sitting right in the smack of the Confederacy. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, and it was a time I think when we were in Virginia Union at that time. Nixon was president, so what kind of the country it was during that time. But so you came there and you were focused on playing basketball. But when you got on campus, you got a chance to meet people from different areas and things like that. So I'm sure quickly you realize college is a lot more to college than just playing basketball. It's forming those relationships, and like you said, forming relationships 50 years later still exist. So how was that? I mean, how was that adjusting to that? Thinking outside basketball and meeting different people from different areas and
Well,
having them share experiences with you.
meeting different people was different. A shout out to JB and the late Cliff Hill, we call him Dip. Shout
Yeah.
out to the late Damon Dreer and Ely. Those were my guys. I loved them. And Larry T's my boy. To this day, me and Larry T are good friends. I love him. Harry Sewell, I became best friends with Harry. And you had Danny and Sweet Pea, and I shout out to all those brothers, man. The Sheila and
Mhm.
Scotty, and then Parker and Pam Cruz, and so I shout out to the people that I met, Deborah Henry and Elaine and all these other people, because they were the ones that I met when I first got there that summer. Tricky Tom had me come down in the summertime, and I
Mhm.
stayed in Store Hall. And upperclassmen, everybody was in Store Hall in the summertime.
Yeah.
And relationships formed, and we started to bond as friends. And the amazing thing is that to this day, we're still close, even though we don't see each other. Thank God for Facebook. Whoever invented Facebook, I give them kudos, because it's a good thing to be able to see you on Facebook and see a lot of
Mhm.
other friends of ours on Facebook, and at least be up to date on what's happening with a lot of different people.
And Boo, you mentioned all those people, and I'll give a plug to Virginia Union and being on the HBCU campus. One of the advantages of it, all those people you named, I know personally as well. It's one of the advantages of being on HBC small campus. We all knew each other and it was like a family, you know. And, every once in a while, be some disagreements, but that's life anyway. But for the most part, it was family. If you were downtown Richmond, you knew and you saw somebody, you knew they went to Virginia Union because you recognized them. That's that kind of family atmosphere we had.
Well, I want
So,
to tell you something.
yeah.
Dr. James, I want to give a special uh, recognition and shout out to his memory. Dr. James was really an interesting guy that I think most people didn't really understand, and he saw more in most of the students there than they saw in themselves. And I was a living witness to that. So I take my hat off to Dr. James, because Dr. James was a president that cared about us even when we didn't know and didn't think that he cared. But he was the daddy. He was the granddaddy. He was the guy that everybody had to answer to. And he was a very fair, good man. And I thank God for Dr. James, because I believe Dr. James was definitely a catalyst in saving my life.
Well, indeed. And probably that goes for a lot of students that were on campus at that time. And that just goes back to explaining the smallness of the campus. Even the president of the university knowing you personally. And in a large setting, that probably wouldn't be possible unless you knew the president personally. But
Union was so small. The campus was small, and it was a very intimate setting. So it was difficult to be around there for over a year and not get to know these people. Frank Royal and Ann Carter called me and told me Dr. James had passed away, and I cried. Because he was a male figure in my life that showed an interest in me as an individual. But that was the president of our school.
Well, how many people can say, you mentioned Dr. Frank Roy, how many people can say that they knew one of the board of directors?
I knew, it was really funny. I was teaching Frank Royal's children karate. He'll tell you that. Yeah, I used to be sitting in his house eating sometime, and I knew Frank Royal, I knew him and his wife. His wife was married to Ann Carter's sister. And, I got to know them. They're beautiful people, really, really good people, for real. And I'm not just, it's not just cliche. These were really good people. And you figure if they embraced me, they had to be all right?
Yeah.
But
they were.
Union was just an intimate setting. It was someplace for us to hang our hat, and call it home.
Yeah, and you talk about something funny. You mentioned we stayed at Store Hall. That somebody came ahead of time, but that was only short-lived, because when the year started, they let us know we were freshmen, and they sent us back to the freshman dorm. Remember Kingsley Hall?
Yes.
The old stone brick building and that radiator heat.
Yes, of course. That was our first real home.
That was our first real home, and no elevators. If you don't
we used to walk up the stairs in there. We used to run up them stairs. We were in condition.
And it had radiator heat. So in the dead of winter, you couldn't control the heat. Whatever they set it on, we just had to deal with it. Dead winter, we had to open the windows because it would be so hot in there.
Yeah. I remember the dorm life very clearly.
Yeah. But I don't think when we were complaining. It was still, we were kind of living a different life that where we came from, even though we came from a home. But be in that kind of setting and be on your own and be responsible for yourself, that was a learning curve for us. Some of us learned right away. Some of us took a little while, and we had talked about earlier how some of us got carried away. I include myself, realizing that you had all that freedom and certain things you didn't have to do, and you wouldn't do it. That was part of, like I said, the learning curve and everything. So that set a basis. But you were very active on campus in plays. And I think when they had fashion shows, you were a part of that. I don't know if it was the New York and were you doing those things before you got there? Because
no, I didn't. No, I didn't. People walked up to see. I never knew I was going to be alone. People. There was Helen and Gloria were these two ladies that lived in Richmond that would come on Union's campus, and I met them through Harry, and they would always tell me, say, "Boy, you should be a model." I'm like, "Get out of here!" I was so busy running around acting crazy, acting wild. I didn't have a chance to sit down and gather myself. And then one day, a friend of mine made some clothes over at VCU, and he was putting them in a fashion show. And we were the same size. And the guy that he had made the clothes to fit for the show they were going to do. Something came up and he couldn't do it. So Jimmy came up to Union one day and saw me and says, Boo, I need you to do this. And I declined at first. I was like, I'm not doing that, you know. And he was like, no, we need you to do this for real. And you're the only person I know that the clothes fit perfect. So I decided to get in the fashion show. So I jumped in the fashion show and I did it. And the next thing you know, I'm walking across campus one day and somebody says, Boo, man, I just saw you in the newspaper. I'm like, you saw me in the newspaper, get out of here. They says, no, for real, man. They ran to the dorm, they got the newspaper and came back, met me in Henderson Center near the cafeteria and showed me 2 pictures of me in the newspaper. And I was like, oh, wow. And I'm looking, you know, and one of them was a full length shot. No, both of them were. And I was strutting down the runway. And Helen kept telling me, she came to see me and she kept saying, Boo, you know, I don't know what you're gonna do with your life, but this is something you need to do. And then we started the modeling troupe up at school, and we put on fashion shows. Remember that? And we put on the fashion shows and everything. And Harry was a part of that, and Walter and myself and Ronnie and Faith, and you know, we all, you know, started doing it. And then when it was time to leave school, I didn't exactly know what I was going to do with myself. So I met this guy that was a photographer in Richmond, and he says, you know, why don't you cut that afro off and shave your face? He said, I'd like to take some pictures of you. And I did that. And I cut my afro off and shaved my face, and he took some pictures. And I looked at the pictures and I was like, wow, that's me. You know, and I didn't even realize that I looked like that. And that was the birth of my plight and my journey that turned into an odyssey to become a model.
Wow. And, you know, because that's why I asked you right now, were you doing that before you got there? Because I remember when they had those fashion shows and I saw you modeling, I said, man, he's strutting like he knows what he's doing. You know, I mean, you know how had that, the models had that strut, they would have that look where they look like looking at you, but they're not looking at you.
Well, if you can dance a little bit, you could somewhat fake it down the runway.
Yeah. And you know those bell bottoms, which was, you know.
Oh, you remember that, huh? Yeah.
That was what was hot then.
Yeah,
you know, bell
bottoms
and
remember?
Tight shirts. And you remember the shirt, and this I'm talking about, a manly man. A lot of football players wore them. The shirts that just stop right here, and you know, you show your 6-pack or midriff or pot belly, whatever you had, you know, and you wouldn't think that a man would wear that, but you know, once you saw the football players, that was fashion in the 70s.
When I started modeling, this is what happened.
You know, probably wouldn't have thought about wearing it.
You know, so speaking about it, you know, we when you modeled, you did all types of things that you never thought you would do. There, of course, if you're level-minded, there was a limitation to what you will and wouldn't do. But at the same time, there's just a lot of things that we did as models that the average person walking the street wouldn't do. You know, and it was different. You know, it was real cool. You know, everybody had to do body shots back then. You know, they wanted to see what you look like. You know, so this is what I was looking like back then. You know, so.
Oh yeah. So you had to do a few push-ups, right?
Yeah, I did quite a few actually.
Yeah.
I never worked out that hard, you know, and then there was a lot of stuff. A lot of times you would take pictures doing things you just had no knowledge of. You didn't know, you know, like this. I mean, that was a picture of me modeling, you know, not long after I left Union. And,
yeah,
you know, I mean, we had to do it all. There's another one, you know, of me when I was modeling. This picture happened to actually make me a lot of money. This shot, I made a lot, because I used it on the front of my composite, and it got me paid. I thank God for that. You know, I had a
And
composite. You have to leave a
I know
composite.
I noticed the clean shaven face, but we'll get back to that in a minute. But what I want you to talk a little bit about is your journey in the modeling. You know, it started there. Yeah, that's a nice picture too. Yeah, your journey started. I guess in the Richmond area, and then you saw that, oh, I can do something with this. Then you started going where the jobs were, or did you have an agent, or
Yeah,
how?
I had to get an agent. You know, I had to get an agent. You know, everybody had agents because the agent was the one that got the phone call asking for models. So the
Mhm.
agent had a stable, as they would call it, of models. And when the clients would call for a model, the agent would send out a model he thought fit the description of what they wanted, and then he would go and try to get the job. He would, it's always an audition. You know, you go in and show your pictures, and they look at your pictures and they pick who they like or who they think is the best or who they think is right for the job. So you had to have an agent.
So that journey, even though that journey had to be a little difficult at times because I'm thinking about before I got to the union in the late '60s or mid '60s, you didn't see too many African Americans or black people modeling. You might see one, two. You might see one. You probably didn't even see two. You see one if you saw any. So how difficult was that to crack into that field during a time when sometimes we talked about this when they were just looking for one type, and once they got that
Well,
one type,
the criteria varied, and it's like at that time they wanted brothers with chiseled faces. Today it's a little different, but they wanted brothers with the chiseled face look,
so when
and
you say chisel, you mean no fat jaws
like
or
see,
nothing
I
like
was
that.
up right here.
That
My
rugged,
face,
yeah.
that was Macy's, and my face
Hmm.
was clean, and you can see
Hmm.
my cheekbones.
Right.
Here you can see my cheekbones again. You know, you can see my cheekbones, and that was a look. This is Macy's also, and they want to show uh, a certain aspect of how they wanted you to look. And back then, high cheekbones, and keen features and a square jawline was working. It was working,
Wow.
but a lot of jobs they paired you with women because look at this.
Mhm.
See, that's a picture of me with the. I did this ad for a fur company, and they pair you with the girl. They put you with a girl. So you had to actually become a triple threat if you were going to work in the business and be successful. And they always paired a brother with a white boy. That's how they do it. There I am right there. That was for
Mhm.
outletters. They always pair a brother with a white boy. And very seldom did you see two brothers on the same page. When I was in Atlanta, I did a catalog one time, and it was the first time they had ever used two brothers on the same page. It opened up into a double fold, and me and this brother Lance Craigwell, we were both on the page together, and that had never been done before, because usually they'll put a brother on one page and put another brother on a different page, But it's the business was dominated by the white models.
Yeah, and that's funny. Even during that time, it was dominated by the white models, but the black people were the ones who were spending the most money. I noticed it's that way today, and I think it's always been that way. So I
Well,
guess
well,
they
well.
had.
When I started modeling, it was part of the civil rights. It was right smack in the middle of the civil rights movement. You know,
Mhm.
uh, myself and Ben Lawson and Jose Kendall, we would go to studios and they would tell us. They'd say, "Sorry, we don't use black models," or they'd say, "Sorry, we're not going to use a black model for this job," or "Sorry, the client's not using a black model today," or something of that nature. Which you can't do that in today's society, but they
See,
did it back in the.
they had no problem saying that to your face.
No, not only did they not have a problem saying it to my face, I remember one day. Now Ben Lawson had done the cover of Ebony, Essence. He was he did one of them cigarette ads everybody saw, and he was always on the cigarette billboards and so on and so forth. He was a little older than me. And one day Ben and I went to a studio for a job, and they were casting models for a big client. And when we got there was a intercom and a camera over top of the door so they could see who's coming and going, because a lot of pretty models would come and go. So you couldn't just go in that building. They wanted to know who was coming and going. Well, Ben got there and said, Ben Lawson, Wilhelmina, because he was with Wilhelmina at the time. And he said, Ben Lawson, Wilhelmina. And over the intercom, they said, sorry, we're not shooting a black model for this job, but leave your picture slotted under the door. And that was it. We encountered a lot of that.
I always wanted to ask this, and I'll slip this in. You model a lot of clothes. Did you ever get to keep some of those clothes?
Say that again?
Did you ever get to keep some of those clothes that you modeled? Or you just had to hand them right back to?
No, I'm going to tell you something. There's always a protocol to being a professional. And as a professional, you go in, you do the job, you finish the job, you thank the people, and you leave. Every now and then, if you do a high fashion job, like that first company, you can ask for some of the clothes. Every now and, a couple of times I modeled something. I said, I want this. I said, can I buy this? And the client said, you know what? When we're finished shooting, we'll give it to you. I said, really? They said, yeah. And I've gotten some things like that, but professional models didn't make it a practice to go into a studio and model the clothes and then ask for them, because we were getting paid a very handsome amount of money, and we could buy our own clothes.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned earlier about, and I said, I made the point about they would say that to your face, we're not hiring black models at this time. And you said they can't do that now. Was it a conscious F back there by some of you models?
Well, it was prejudice. I mean, it was prejudice. You go to the modeling agency and they'll say, sorry, we have one like you already. Black people come in so many different shades and colors and shapes and sizes. It's amazing that the man's going to stand there and say to me, we have one like you. They say, sorry, we have one like you already. But the jobs were far few and in between for brothers versus what the white boys were getting. The white boy worked 5 days in a row, sometimes full days, getting thousands of dollars. And we were lucky if we got 2 hours today, 3 hours tomorrow, and an hour the next day. If we got 5 hours that week or 7 hours that week, we did good. Although there were times where we worked a lot, especially when they were doing catalogs for Christmas and Father's Day and different, holidays and so on and so forth. We had the opportunity to work more, but the average brother was struggling to get a job. Now Renard White was the real handsome guy with the thick mustache. Remember him? He's a real good looking guy. He had a thick mustache. He was really a good looking boy, and Renard opened the door so that a lot of us could work, so that a lot of us could have an opportunity. And he was older than us. And then you had Jose Kendall and Charles Williamson and Ben Lawson came along. And then you had, of course, you had your Billy Blair, Pat Cleveland, Albert Chin. You had, Josie Novak, Cynthia King. You had those models also, the girls. And so the door was opening for us, but it was still slammed in our face a lot of times too.
Yeah, and I want to bring up this point too, and we talked about this, but before I do that, anybody joining us now, you're welcome to the SlimNation, and welcome to YouTube Live and Facebook Live videos, and I'm here talking to my first college roommate, John Boo Pittman, and he came from Brooklyn, New York, and I came from Portsmouth, Virginia, and we came together in 1972, August. Never forget that date. And
we won the basketball team. We won a basketball team together. Yeah. Remember that?
were on the freshman basketball team together.
Yes.
And I'm glad you validated that, because I've been telling people that and nobody believes. See, I'm wearing the colors right now, in honor of our time there together. But anyway, that's who we have. But getting back to modeling, I think we talked a little bit before about, and you were explaining to me, we mentioned Shaft. Give me the name.
Say that again.
We mentioned Shaft. We were talking about the gentleman that played Shaft.
Oh, you talking about Tyson Bedford?
Not Tyson. Shaft.
Richard Roundtree.
Richard Roundtree. You mentioned him.
Richard was modeling. Richard was modeling before all of us. Because right now Richard's like almost 80 years old, if he's not 80 yet.
Yeah.
And he was modeling, 10, 15 years before I got there. And Richard was part of the Ebony Fashion Fair.
Yeah, and
he
I
branched
was making
into acting.
The point I wanted to make, I think a lot of the earlier models that you would see, the black models you would see, it was clean look, clean face.
Yeah, they wanted us clean shaven. The aristocratic, the aristocratic white boy was clean shaven with a very neat haircut. Unlike in today's society, it's gone the other direction. And when they would use a brother to work, 90% of the time it was a brother that had a chiseled face that was clean shaven. Renault used the mustache. I worked with the mustache some. I was able to do some ads with the mustache, but not many. I'd say the vast majority of the work that I had done as a professional model was always clean shaven. But like I said, I had my moment where I was able to work with the mustache, and it was good. It was cool. It was okay. But they wanted us always to be clean shaven. That was how they saw us and how they wanted the general public to see us. So that's why we were always clean shaven. We'd walk around New York City and people would know we were models as soon as they looked at us. They walk up to you and say it. They say, "Oh, aren't you a model?"
You have to be a model because everything is perfect and everything. But you were saying that during that time, a mustache on a brother was kind of intimidating to some.
Yes, it was, and you're 100% correct. It was intimidating to them. Renault broke the mold. Here's a picture of me with a mustache. See, I had a mustache in that, and I had a mustache when I shot, some other stuff I had done. I had the mustache, but not a lot. There I am with the mustache again. I had a mustache, but most of the time you had to shave your face. I mean, that's how they wanted it. And if you wanted to work, you did it. I stayed clean shaven for a long time.
Well, you were almost clean shaven when you got the union because you were just a little kid.
Well, when I got the union, I couldn't grow no hair. How about that? I had peach fuzz. I thought I had a mustache, but it was really. I thought I had a mustache.
Yeah, some of us late bloomers. I didn't have anything either my freshman year, and then sophomore year everything started coming in. Was it ever a job that your agent got you that you said, man, I can't do that?
I said I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
No. I'll tell you something. First of all, I was with a reputable agency. I had ended up getting with Ford, and I never went on a job that went against my morality fiber. I never did a job that wanted me to do something that I just didn't want to do. So when a job came up at that time, we were getting paid really well. You know what I'm saying? We were getting paid pretty good, and wasn't anybody turning down no jobs. So No, that didn't happen to me. Acting wise, it did. Acting,
Mhm.
there was some stuff that I had been offered that, even though I needed to make the money and I needed to continue to work, I didn't do it. I got offered something recently I wouldn't do. I'm a heterosexual man, and I don't do any type of job that goes against that aspect of who I am.
The reason I asked that, because you have all kinds of magazines. You might have magazines that that might be for the for the gay community and things like that. And I don't think it
Mainstream
would.
models didn't do that.
Mhm.
Mainstream models did the catalogs, the newspapers, the sophisticated magazines. I did Ebony and Essence and Ebony Man. I did all of that, and I did Sears and Macy's and Montgomery Ward's and I did Marshall Fields in Chicago, and I worked. I went around the country. That's why I call it an odyssey, not a journey.
Mhm.
And I call it an odyssey because in order to continue to work and work steady, I had to move around. So I went from state to state to state, living out of suitcases and hotel rooms and, just to be able to make a living and have my dream.
And before we transition the conversation into getting into acting, what is the lifespan of a model? Is there a such thing?
There's a lifespan of modeling, I would say, but it's really funny for girls. The window closes a little faster because
Mhm.
they're women, and modeling is a young woman's business. Even though Naomi Campbell is still working now, and you have certain girls that
One of
work
the surgeons.
far beyond 30 years old. But for
Mhm.
a man, I didn't really start making money until I was 30. Or
Mhm.
31, 32. That's when I started doing menswear. Before that, I was doing juniors. I was 27, 28 years old doing juniors because I looked so boyish in the face. And
Mhm.
and the money was in menswear. So after I became 30, from 30 to around 36 is when I started doing the the more preferred work.
Yeah. It's kind of different nowadays because you'll see male models now with gray like I have here, which you wouldn't see that years ago. It was all about the you look, but now you'll see the more mature models out there modeling in those same magazines that you mentioned and print magazine, billboard magazines, and things like that. So
Well,
it's a little.
the business of course has evolved, over the years, and a
Mhm.
lot of things that you didn't see then you see now, and the type of models they pick and things they do, it's different, and the money is different. The modeling that I was able to do back then, if I did that now, I would have a nice little stack of money. I was
Mhm.
able to make a living, and I was lucky, I'd say, and blessed to be able to even pay my bills as a model,
Mhm.
because of the way the business was structured. But now a guy could get a job and make 25, 30,000 in no time. He could work for a half a day and make 12, $15,000. Back then the white boys did it, but we didn't get paid like that. We did some
So
jobs where we did jobs where we got bonuses and we got money, but we were working for like 2 and 3 thousand a day. And the white boy was getting double that, sometimes
so
triple.
you got modeling was a paid back job situation as opposed to acting where you get the residuals, things like that. You did a job and got paid whatever the pay scale
Well,
was.
there was a residual income attached to some modeling jobs. Like if you like, I did a campaign for Delta Airlines, and I was in Ebony and Essence, and then they made billboards. And when they print billboards and they print posters and certain things they do, there's bonuses for that, and they send you more money. Television is different. It's a whole different
Mhm.
medium. It's a whole different animal. How you get paid on TV, and then you have the Screen Actors Guild. There was no model union. There was no union for models, so they
Mhm.
could fire you and do all kinds of not cool things. and it wasn't much you could do. You could fight them if you can get a lawyer, but now, if as an actor, if something happens that's really not cool, that you can go to SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and they have representatives that will represent you and take care of it.
Is it a union? Is it something kind of
Yes, yeah.
representation?
The Screen Actors Guild. The Screen Actors
Oh.
Guild is one of the most powerful unions in the world. That Denzel belongs to the Screen Actors Guild. Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, Meryl Streep, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, everybody belongs to SAG. If you work as a professional, that's why people can look us up. Because I had mentioned to you that one day JB told me he was talking to his wife and they were talking about me. And she says, well, I want to look this guy up. And she looked me up and she saw a lot of information about my career and, you know, what I had been doing as a professional. Because if you do professional jobs, then there's professional record of it.
Okay, I'm talking to my first college roommate, John Boo Pittman, here on the SlimNation, and we've been talking about. We started out talking about his interest into college, coming from Brooklyn, New York, and then going into modeling. You know, by someone that's been discovering him by doing modeling on campus while he was on campus. Which after I saw that he had gotten into that, it just made sense to me because I used to watch him model. And after you modeled for a while, Boo, you got into acting. And what made me aware of it, I hadn't seen you in a long time, but was sitting home with my wife watching 5 Heartbeats. And right in the beginning of the movie, I'm sitting there and I see Boo in the first scene of the movie. And brief, but an important part of the movie because it was the beginning and it set the stage for the rest of the movie. And
that was my first job. That was my first movie that I did in Hollywood was the 5 Heartbeats.
And people don't realize even when you have that role that seems small like that, that takes a little bit of time to do. And then on that set, you said you were standing, so that kept you on the scene throughout the whole movie. You were standing for.
Yeah, I stood in for Michael Wright, who played Eddie King Jr. And I was his stand-in. I've doubled for him in movies. I've done stunts for him in films. I did stunt driving for him, you know, on Diary of a Hitman, and you know, so. It afforded me the opportunity to be around. And I just want to say this. I want to give a shout out to Robert Townsend because Robert Townsend was very gracious and very nice to me. And to this day, we're still good friends. And he was the one that actually gave me the job. Michael went in there and asked Robert to give me that job and told him that, you know, it would mean something to him if he did that. And Robert accommodated his request and gave me that job. So I just wanted to, you know, say thank you to Robert for that.
Yeah, I'd like to mention too, you were also in a lot of plays while we were at Union together. You were modeling, you were in plays, you were poetry reading. So, but I didn't think about it then. And then after I started seeing you doing all these things, it all made sense, you know, because that was what you were doing then. I don't think you realized then that you would get to the point you are now. But what?
No, I didn't realize. I mean, actually, in retrospect, you're right. I really didn't realize it, you know. And I had mentioned earlier about Dr. James because I love Dr. James, you know, and I don't want to talk about him too much because then I'll be sitting on your podcast crying. You know, I love Dr. James, you know. But the point is that he saw more in me than I saw in myself. I didn't know that I was going to become a professional actor. I didn't know I was going to become a model or anything like that. I was just hanging out, you know what I mean? And I was just having fun.
I had no idea either, especially those late nights when we got hungry and had to walk down the street to get a hamburger.
Remember that, huh?
You know, once the cafeteria closed, that was it for you, baby. You know, so you had to have a little change on you so you could get food. And we
put our money together. Remember that? We put our money together and we would buy hamburgers and different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And Who knew? Who knew? But there's everybody starts somewhere. You know, like it probably was already in the plans, like we mentioned. God already had plans for you, brother. So and it just played itself out, and it just had to go a certain way. You had to go take a journey to get there, and He takes us through all kinds of journeys to get us to a point where He feels like we will be.
Well, it took a village, being at Union was like living in a village. It took a village to help mature us and steer us some kind of way. It's really funny. I thought I went to college to get this great college education, but I realized years later that I went to college to find a family. I went to college to learn something about life that taught me there was more going on in this world in Brooklyn, New York, and that there were people that cared. And that's what I believed helped me through.
Yeah, there were some special moments, especially, and I talk about that now when we talk about the pressures that college students might have, especially ones that live far away. You were in New York, so it was closer some Thanksgivings for you to come to my house, come out here to Portsmouth and enjoy some time with us here.
Going to your house was the first time that I remember going to a functional family. One of the things about Union that woke me up was that when I got to Union, that was the first time I had ever seen functional families with the mother and the father and the children, the little dog, and they bring the child to school and help him with his bags and get adjusted in the dorm. I had never seen that before. Growing up in Brooklyn, growing up in the projects, everybody had a broken home, and if there was a mother and father in the house, it was very dysfunctional. So, going to Union, when I remember I was going to stay on campus because I had nowhere to go. And you said, nah, well, come with me. You said, I'm going to Thanksgiving, you can come with me. I called my father and tell him you coming. And I went down there to Portsmouth to your house for Thanksgiving. And,
Yeah.
That was a good experience for me.
You said my dad scared you.
Your father, Judge Overton, was a big imposing guy, and I remember him so well. And yeah, I was a little scared of him, and he would look at me, and like, yeah, so what are you up to? But he was a nice man.
Yeah, but getting back to the acting part, and that was amazing. And then things happen, Sugar Hill came, you were in Anton Fisher, Zoom Man, Slides, Joshua Soul.
It's really funny. It's really funny. I really, Michael Wright started acting. See, we did our first modeling job together for Puerto Rican rum. We did an ad that ran in Ebony. It was Puerto Rican rum, and we did that ad, and it jump started my modeling career. And Michael said, "I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to be an actor. I want to get in movies." And I had no interest in it at that time, so I continued to model for several more years. And then all of a sudden, Mike gets a role in this movie and says, "Man, it's your turn. You're up. It's you. And I did that part, but I had already done 227 with Jack Hay. I did 227, and I did 2 episodes guest starring on Hill Street Blues. When I did 227, I did that with Jack Hay and T.K. Carter. It was really nice, And so the bug bit me. The bug bit me, and the acting bug bit me, and I started auditioning for jobs, and I started getting jobs, which was interesting. And after a while, I took an interest in trying to learn what it was all about, and that started my journey then to become a professional, learn what it is to be a pro.
And along with that, go ahead, God bless you. Along with that, because you still kept up with martial arts.
Yeah, I did. I never stopped teaching. I was always even to this day, I have.
You were teaching on campus.
You remember that, huh? I sure was. I
Yeah,
was
I
in
know.
Henderson Center teaching karate. I sure was.
Right.
And I still teach now. I have 4 students, 4 children. I'm not teaching the adults no more. I'm teaching
Mm-hmm.
the children, the kids. But you're right. I continue to actually I continue to compete. I won countless gold medals and trophies and plaques. I went to the world championships, a few times before I finally won one. And that was it was and is a very intricate part of my life. It's something that
Because I remember you telling me the day you had at Union that you had gone to some tourists that might have come through New York and actually saw Bruce Lee, uh, in person, and he was
I fought
competing,
in the Long
but
Beach.
he was sworn.
I fought
Go
in
ahead.
the Long Beach International, and that was a tournament that Bruce Lee fought in. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, Joe Hayes, Joe Louis, these really top karate guys. Everybody, Steve Saunders, everybody fought in that tournament that were fighters. And I actually fought in that tournament. I have the trophy in my room. I won first place. That was a world championship tournament. And I won first place black belt continuous sparring. And it was good, and so I stuck with the karate. Anyway, that's the deal. Are we still going? Are we still moving? Are we still on? I gotta use my glasses because I'm getting older. I can't see. Slim, you there? Slim, are you there?
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, okay. So what? Oh,
You
all
hear me?
right. Yeah.
Somehow lost the connection there for a minute. So
Look, I had to put my glasses on to see the screen to see if we're getting older now. I mean, we
yeah,
were in school
see,
50 years ago. So, this is
see,
what I
I
look
had
like
mine.
everybody with my glasses on. Okay, so I wear
Yeah,
glasses too. I can't see
thanks,
much.
thanks, yeah, thanks for staying on there because it just went out all of a sudden. But you get those things. That was something.
They're just machines.
Yeah, a connection. But anyway, I think we were talking about your acting career, and it's amazing how all these things. Well, you were talking about your karate. You're still being involved with that. It's amazing how all these things happen, and after you funneled through Virginia Union University, and then all these things came to life for you, and mentioned that it probably was God-given prophecy that you were going to be where you are today. So talk about what's going on with you now. What are you doing
Well,
now?
first, I'd like to say Virginia Union was the catalyst for where I am now. But what's going on with me today, actually, I just auditioned for Tyler Perry and some other shows, and I auditioned for a commercial the other day. I'm still in the business because it's all about a dream, and one of the things that we learn is you don't stop dreaming because you get older. Your dreams become more clear. Diane Carroll told me one time, I was hanging out with Diane Carroll, and she was telling me, she says, John, if you have patience you can last. If you have patience. I told you I worked with Harold Nicholas too, from the famous Nicholas brothers. When I worked with Harold, Harold was a sweet guy. You know, I loved him. When I would see him every morning when we got to the set, I'd put my arms around him and I would hug him because he was just such a nice man. And he was so much older than everybody, but we all gravitated to his wisdom and his spirit, you know. And so now I'm older. I'm one of the old guys. I'm 1 year from 70. And I'm one of the older guys now. And a lot of young actors talk to me and they embrace me the same way. So I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it.
70 is not what it used to be.
You know what? It's really funny you would say that. We didn't know what it was. You know, growing up, we never imagined being 70.
No. I mean, being a freshman in college, somebody said they were 30, you know, it would be some old guys that were with us, you know, that probably had gone in the
35
military.
was old to us.
You know, somebody, you know, it used to be a guy on our floor when we were freshmen. He was like 25 years old. We thought he was ancient, you know.
We thought Chuck House was ancient.
Yeah. Well, you know, he had, you know, we know where he had been, but he came back, you know, and played some good basketball for Union.
Chuck House was a good man. I enjoyed him. I enjoyed Chuck House. You know, Chuck House continued his education after taking a break from it. You know, and he was older than us. You know, but he was a good dude. I love Chuck House. You know, Larry T was my guy. You know, I love Larry T. And I love Harry. You know, I loved everybody actually. You know, Sheila is really a good friend of mine. Sheila and Scotty. And I love Pam Cruz and Bill Boy. You know, Parker had the prettiest jump shot in the world, you know, and I really enjoyed those guys. And we still stay in touch. You know, we still stay in touch. You know, we were on the phone praying all together at one point for different things. And we were, you know, just sharing our hearts. So, you know, we called it a black school. They call it, what do they call it? HBCU or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't call it that. You know, we call it black school. You know, that's what we called it when we were in school. We didn't get into the alphabet, you know, but going to Virginia Union, going to a black university taught me something about life that I might not have learned otherwise.
But you know what was amazing? What was amazing going there too, even though once we got there, we were Unionites collectively. Everybody came there from different states or cities, even though they might not have known each other. You know, like all the Philly guys would come together, and in Philly, they might not even known each other. But once you got there, you know, everybody, your homeboys were important. The DC guys.
You remember I told you what happened in history class, right?
Go ahead.
With Pearl Mankins.
Oh yeah. Tell that story.
I was in history class. I was in history class, and I was rebuttaling the teacher. But I was rebuttaling something she was saying. I don't remember exactly word for word what it was, but I was rebuttaling what she was saying, and she was trying to say, "No, son, this is what it is." And I'm like, "Well, the book said this," and she looked at me and crossed her arms and said, "Excuse me, I wrote the book." And I said, "Huh?" And then I started flipping through the pages real fast, and I got to the part, to the glossary. I got to the part that gives the credits for writing and everything, and there was her name, Pearl Mankins. Yeah. Everybody got quiet and turned around, looked at me, you know. And this woman, I'm arguing with her, and she was the author of the history book that we were learning out of. That was my academic memory of the century.
Yeah, you know, actually, you argue with the person, with the teacher, and he wrote the book. You know,
she said it like that.
You, man.
She said those very words. That I remember word for word. She said, "I wrote the book," and you know, back then I was brash, so I wanted to probably, I don't know for sure, but I probably wanted to say, "Yeah, right," but I didn't say anything. I just froze, you know, and I started looking through because I was waiting to see somebody else's name there. I was gonna be like, "Well, your name ain't on here," but sure enough, it was right there, Pearl Mankins, written by, you know, and I was like, "Wow."
that was your nature, Boo, because even back in the dorm, you know, if someone said something, they had to prove it to you. You wouldn't just take it at face value because they said it. You had to say, well, you got to prove that to me. So you took that into to the wrong classroom. And
No,
anybody
you're
watching,
right. I was, you know, that was part of growing up in Brooklyn. When you tell us
yeah,
something, we don't believe it. You know, you got to prove it
yeah.
to us. If you tell us you can fly, well, we want to see you fly.
But everybody that watches now or watches later and went to Union, they will know about Pearl Mackins and
Pearl
a lot of
Mankins
other
was a
professors.
famous lady. You know, Pearl Mankins was a famous lady. And it was really funny because after that day, I'd see her, you know, I was in her class, but if we weren't in class and she was walking across the campus and I saw her, I'd almost hide. You know, I was scared of that one. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
mess with her. And she was a very stern looking woman, you know, strong hands, you know, strong jawline. And but she was one of ours, and she was a famous lady. And I met her in Ellison Hall.
And you talk about somebody walking across campus. It's amazing that, you know, the main classroom was named Ellison Hall.
That's
It
where
was
we went
named
to. That's where we took all our
all the
classes.
classes there, and it was named Ellison Hall. And there's nothing for you to be walking across campus and walk past Dr. Ellison, who the
Right.
building was named, like 90 years old, but he was still dressed up in suit and tie walking around campus. And you in
His
the building
granddaughter was there, Cheryl Ellison.
Cheryl
Remember?
Ellison. Yeah,
Cheryl
okay.
Ellison was his granddaughter. She was there, you know, and I
Granddaughter
knew
was
her
there.
and her mother. And yeah, there's a lot of famous people walking around there.
Yeah, it was. And I told you
Anthony
that they
Leonard.
sent audience.
Anthony Leonard played with the 49ers. Bob Jones went to Cincinnati.
Herb Scott with the
Herb
Cowboys.
Scott, that went to Dallas.
I got to give
Tony
a shout
Leonard
out.
was a very close friend of mine.
I see James Porter is watching. Shout out to James Porter. And I saw
I love James
Ron Gittridge
Porter.
is watching. My brother Ron Gittridge, I see he's watching. And I see Wade Pierce is watching. And Wade was one of my hometown boys that to come up there every once in a while on the weekends. You know, every once in a while, some homeboys will come up there on the weekends and spend some time
Casey
with
was
us.
your homeboy. Casey was your homeboy, the running back.
Casey was there. Casey kind of paved the way. He was there a year before me.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got there, he said, after football season, you know, I'm gonna come get you and look out for you. And he came and got me and took me out and dinner and everything. And so
Casey was a good guy. Casey was a gentleman all the way around the board.
All around, even here when he was.
I love Casey. His wife is wonderful. You know, Casey was a good guy. You know, and I want to shout out to Casey. You know, because we've been knowing him for a long time, and he's always been nothing but a gentleman. And the last time I was at homecoming, I saw Casey, and we stopped and laughed, and I looked down at his feet because Casey had the big old feet and he could run. Boy, it was fast. And we gave each other a hug and we laughed and we talked. It was cool seeing Casey.
Yeah, they always talked about his feet. Even here in Norton, they said if you look at him from the side, he looked like an L. His feet were so long, like a letter L.
Well, I'll tell you what, them big feet carried him across the goal line because he sure could run.
Yep. And as we kind of wind down now, because I wanted to keep this about an hour, and we'll do this again, but many more times. And I want to thank you for starting, with me here on the SlimNation as we go forward. I plan on having more one-on-ones from people from Union as well, and everyday people. And if I could get an NBA player that came out of here, we talked about him the other day, Dorian Smith. Hopefully, I can get Charles Oakley and get one of them. But I also like to get somebody like a homeless person up here, because even though people used to over that might be homeless, that person probably at one time was in a circle like you were in, made money like you do, but circumstances made him. I just like to have a conversation with them.
I just want to say this. I want to say this in all fairness to the conversation. My journey wasn't all peaches and cream. I've slept in my car too. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of people slept in their car. Most actors I've met have slept in their car at one point or another, and I wasn't free of that. I slept in my car and I struggled just like everybody else. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to
you had
say
to be
that.
dedicated. Had to be dedicated to the craft, and it's not, like they tell people that's you're an overnight sensation, and that might like overnight was 6 years, but it seems like to us,
Overnight just means you did a job, and after that particular job, the
everybody knows.
the door was open. But that doesn't mean that you didn't bang on that door for 5 or 10 years.
Mhm. Look, did you ever do plays? That's something that you
Yeah, I did.
did,
You know
or
what? I did. Not only did I do plays, I did a gospel musical too, where I sang a
mm,
solo and everything.
yeah, that was something you did. I didn't know you sang to you. I saw that video of you was
A
Mary,
lot of
don't you
people,
weep?
nobody at Union knew I could sing. I never
Well, you
told
never
anyone I
sang.
could sing.
Well, Boo, you never sang. All you did was talk.
Well, yeah, I was talking stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could go, but you always had something good to say. I'll put it that way.
Well, I wasn't a negative guy, but
No,
we all
no.
grow up and we live and we learn, and I just credit Union with a lot of my growth and a lot of just opening my eyes to what was really going on in this world. I learned a lot going to Union, and I also learned that people will care about you. And I do recommend that youngsters today at least consider going to Black universities,
Mhm.
versus the white boys' school because they have money. But the Black universities have something that money can't buy.
Right, right. And you're exactly right. And a lot of people that went to ACUs all over the United States have similar stories where, it's just the nurturing, that family type nurturing you get that you don't get at the PWIs. And not taking anything away from the PWI, predominantly white institutions, but it's just
Some
something
great
about
white
the
institutions. There's some great institutions of higher learning that are
institutions.
predominantly white, but there's something that you get from a Black school you're not going to get from those places. UCLA
Yeah,
is a great school. I live here in California. I live in LA. I live in North Hollywood. And UCLA is a very prominent university, and so is USC. But there's
mhm,
something that we got at Union that the brothers that go to UCLA do not get.
right. Indeed, indeed. So we're going to wind down now, and I'm give you the opportunity to make some last comments to talk about um, your career, or say whatever you want to say as we end this. And
No, only thing I want to say is that, I just thank God and I praise God for giving us the opportunity for me to be here today with you, and for the students that I did not mention in the shout out does not mean I don't love you, because I love all of you guys, and being a part of Union. Oh, I wanted to say this. I wanted whoever's watching to hear this. Once I started acting, and you walk down the street and people recognize you from television and movies and different things, it's great for the ego, but it really, after a while, didn't mean that much anymore. But it really meant a lot to me when the students and my brothers from Union and my sisters from Union, when they recognized me,
mhm,
and saw me, Coach Moore and Dr. James and JB and Larry and all these other people that saw me on television, it meant a lot when they said it. When that's the approval that I wanted, was the brothers from Union to see that my time there wasn't wasted. And that meant a lot to me, that the brothers and the sisters from Virginia Union recognized that I was doing something positive with my life, not the general public. It meant a lot to me when the brothers said that they saw me. So I wanted to say that.
yeah, it was just so important to us as we were watching movies and things like that, and saw you involved in. And we knew when we were there with you at Union, we saw all that developing, not knowing how far it would go. We saw that developing, and all the things you were involved in. And then plenty of other people that were there as well went on to do some great things, and you know, and have gotten credit for. But going back or just thinking about those days gives you just fond memories and that you'll never forget. And like we said in the beginning, over 50 years ago was when we started that journey together at Union. And thank God for our friendship continuing on, and especially having this opportunity to have the conversation that we had today. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank
Much
you.
love to
I
you.
appreciate being here more than you'll ever know. This meant a lot to me. I've been interviewed by quite a few people over the years, but I was nervous coming here today, and I was nervous and excited, and to be on this podcast. And I never felt the butterflies like I feel them today. But because we're family, it's very important, and it means something.
Yeah, and I'm kind of nervous too because this is the launching of the Slim Nations on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Although I have other channel called Busman Coffee Talk that I do with two other hosts, and we've been doing that for over a year and a half. This is kind of special to me because I wanted to have those one-on-ones, and I
Right.
couldn't think about the person to start with was the person that gave me the name Slim, so, which is in the name of the title of this particular program. So I appreciate that.
Well,
That
thank you
might
for
not happen.
having me. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for agreeing to be on here, and we will continue to talk personally, and we'll continue to have these conversations up here because it's always something. Well, you said you don't get into politics that much, so
No, I
that won't.
know quite a bit about politics. I just have learned to keep my opinions to myself.
Yeah, it might. I guess it might cost you some
Everybody has
jobs.
an opinion. Everybody has
Yeah,
an opinion, and I've learned to get along with folks better. Sometimes, it's better to be seen and not heard.
Yeah, and plus you don't want to get blackballed in Hollywood.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah,
I'm not afraid
yeah.
of these people here, though. I speak
I
my
heard,
mind. I'm not afraid of the
yeah,
people in Hollywood, but there is a protocol, and there is a professional way that you handle yourself. There's a way that you want to handle yourself and be a professional, and
yeah.
and keep it conservative and keep it right. So I've learned to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Slim,
That's
for
probably
having
the
me.
best.
Thank you.
Probably the best thing. Thank you a lot, brother. Appreciate it. And thank everybody for watching the SlimNation as we launch our first show today. And this is going to be memorable. It's going to be recorded. If you didn't see it, it's going to be out there on YouTube forever and on Facebook Live as well. So I thank my brother, John Boo Pittman. What can I say? I appreciate you again.
Thumbs up, bro.
Thanks, everybody. Take care and have a great day. And as I always
I'm gonna watch the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll be watching Dallas. So watch Dallas and see what they do.
Dallas is playing right now.
We got the hometown boy that's went to IC Norcom, and now he's playing with Dallas Mavericks. And so we're gonna keep a watch out for that. Thanks everybody again. We appreciate you. God bless you. And as always, be aware, be informed, and most of all, be involved. Take care.